How y'all doing today? Um, it's been a while since I've posted anything, but that doesn't mean I haven't been super busy, as most of you are as well. Um, just really taking the time to explore and absorb and put into practice many of the contemporary discussions and pieces of education that are on our doorstep these days. It's interesting. I was having a conversation with a colleague the other day, a colleague who happens to be the manager of our addictions programs. And I was having this conversation because I was interested in attending some workshops and things in the area of addiction. I have primarily been spending most of my time over the last decade or so studying family systems, trauma, um, FASD, brain development, human development, all those kinds of things as I day to day work with families in high levels of distress. Um, that being said, and as we most of us can attest, uh, in our work with people and families, there are often many layers that we encounter, and certainly one of those layers is addiction. I started off my career 30 years ago as an addictions counselor, so I've always been very interested in that aspect of the human journey. Um, and of course, that's become a much hotter topic of late because of the opioid crisis. But again, in speaking to my colleague, it was interesting that he was saying that in the field of addiction, because he's there all the time, he was saying in the field right now, the kind of the hot topics are approaching addiction more from a trauma informed um, perspective. Now, for those of us who've been in the field a long time, I think this is something that we could say we've always talked about, the high correlation between um, trauma one experiences in life and um, the susceptibility to addiction, etc. Um, but now, because of the trauma informed focus, in a lot of different avenues, those two pieces are being looked at more significantly. So, um, trauma and a trauma informed approach to delivering addiction services. Um, and the other interesting thing that I was pleased to hear was he was mentioned that is more and more of a values um, centered approach to working with addiction. And he was speaking of how when they talk about recovery and formulating recovery plans and action plans, often part of that is setting goals. But what they have seen is that um, if an individual does not have a good grasp or a good vision of what their values are, then it's very difficult for that individual to gain any traction, any headways in actually accomplishing those goals. Um, and So, without that values based approach, it slows the recovery or um, you know, relapses and things occur more frequently. So anyway, I was very interested in that because for many years now, since the 90s, I've been working on a strong transpersonal approach to addressing addiction and many other things. And if you've watched some of my video clips, you know that much of that work has been on um, studying the phenomena of inflated entitlement and indulgence that we currently find ourselves. Now, when I first started to put together these concepts and the approaches and the curriculums, excuse me, I came up with something called the indulgence triangle. Actually, it was called the addiction as indulgence and entitlement dynamic, but within that, there was an indulgence triangle. What I was trying to do at the time was to connect or create the possibility or the possible movement from a kind of a more medical model approach to addiction, which was highly focused on biosocial kinds of things and now genetic things, that more or less says that that addiction is something that somebody can come by, quite innocently. That can be, someone can be predisposed to that genetically. Not to say those things aren't the case, but that approach in and of itself seemed to remove from it the if you will, the free will choice component of who we are as human beings. That there is something quite awesome, really, about who we are as human beings when we bring into the conversation the act of will, and how important that is when we talk about recovery, if you will, from anything, or recovery from trauma and things of that nature. So I've been bringing those two pieces together, allowing people to have a look at what I feel is the precursor to addiction, which is the indulgences. Now, an indulgence is a free will choice to participate in any thought, process, or thing that creates adverse consequences. So the litmus test is very much or very similar to that of addiction, because it's about participating in something that creates adverse consequences. But the definition of indulgence offers that it is a free will choice, which makes it more of a psychological dynamic. So in other words, why as human beings would we willfully participate in something that we know isn't good for us? But we do that all the time. So the dynamic is as old as time. That phenomena of freely choosing to do something that we know that we shouldn't do. That's called an indulgence. To take it a little farther, an indulgence is marked by seduction. So we would never indulge in something unless somehow it was seductive. We often call indulgences guilty pleasures. Things that we do that we know we shouldn't do. Because if we keep doing them, it puts us in harm's way. It depletes us. Now, the psychology behind that is fascinating. But what I was saying is that what I have come to see is that what we know as addiction really is the body's, adjustments, biological adjustments, neurological adjustments to the repeated use of those chemicals, or the repeated patterns of indulgence. What we know now through brain research, etc., the brain and the body do respond. The brain does change, not only to its repeated exposure to substances, but its repeated exposures to negative thoughts. So yeah, that all impacts our neurology, and of course I guess you could say a big part of recovery is to lean into this neuroplasticity that is being talked about so much in order to get the brain to prune away some of the neurological connections that are producing adverse consequences, and begin to produce some new neurological connections that are more healthy. Now, this all being said, I'm excited to say that I'm launching a new series. It's called the Integrity Series. And within that, this particular part of the series is going to focus a lot on addiction. And there are going to be two basic workshops, basic but powerful workshops that are going to be part of that series. Now, the first workshop, it was be incredibly valuable for staff, counselors, etc., people in the field, but also for clients. I shared this information in programs where I was lead facilitator for youth programs, sharing it directly with youth. They understand it because it's so powerful, so primal to who we are. Um, so it's just really suitable for everybody, but it does go fairly deep, and um, I want to make that workshop available to people as part of the series. Again, that one is the indulgence triangle, the addiction, indulgence, and entitlement dynamic within the indulgence triangle. This is something that I use constantly in the family work that I do. It's I teach it weekly within my parent leadership group. It just helps people move through things so much more quickly, and they can do it in a trauma-informed, empowerment-focused way. I mean, that's really what this is about. When we move into an indulgence definition, an indulgence playing field, and we add the free will choice component, it empowers people and moves it into more of a transpersonal direction. The second workshop is going to be one in which individuals create their personal code of honor. So, as I was referring to, as my friend was talking about regarding current addiction approaches, which was a values-based approach, uh, this workshop does that and more. It is really based in the belief that within everybody we have a true and authentic self, which is composed of what people might call values or beliefs or virtues, or what I like to call our deep convictions. It's really important to understand the difference between a value or a belief and a conviction. A value and a belief, even as we think about it, is held mostly in our heads. Somebody can say that they value the virtue of respect, but then when they find themselves in high levels of stress or distress or whatever it is, wherever they're at, they quickly find that their adherence to that particular virtue is pretty weak. So in other words, you could have a child, or a teen or a parent, in a level of distress. Before they know it, they're cursing at each other, doing all sorts of things, a married couple or whatever, or in all sorts of relationships. That's where people really get tested in terms of their character, in terms of their values and beliefs. And what you find out there oftentimes is that people can believe something, they can value something, but they don't have it embodied. That's what conviction is. Conviction, by definition, means with adherence. It means fused. It means welded to something. It means glued to something. Adhesed, adherence. So with adhesion. So when we talk about our code of honor, it's something that is inscribed within us. It's like written in stone. And when people drift away from that inner code of honor, that's when people go into if you will, unhealthy distress, and experience all sorts of chronic problems. So this workshop focuses on helping people get in touch with their personal code of honor. And then from there, people can see more clearly what their deep convictions are, and then they can begin to formulate what I call a sacred vow. See, that sacred vow title, that carries way more weight than does, say, for instance, a mission statement or a value statement. So coming out of this code of honor is going to be a sacred vow. It does declare to the world what really the person's personal mission is, but it's more of a transpersonal mission than a self-serving mission. So this begins to be, again, a stand that people can take. It begins to suggest it, or it offers a declaration people can make about who they truly are. And then from there, action plans can be created. See, most people, they want to go from value to action. Actually, what you need is values, if you will, virtues, convictions, a sacred vow to go with it, a declaration, a new identity. And then, out of the new identity, some steps. Because the new identity offers purpose, offers meaning, and offers inspiration. See, without those things, without purpose, without meaning, without inspiration, setting up goals and taking action is just not going to really be enough to motivate a person. The value should be, or the action should be a manifestation of the sacred vow. And the sacred vow, a manifestation of the code of honor. That's the sequence in which those things work together. So I'm offering this series now. Again, I can offer introductory presentations and workshops for staff and colleagues. But I'd love to be able to offer this workshop, the Code of Honor workshop, to your clients for free. Hundreds of people have already experienced this. It's already proven itself to be incredibly effective. So I know this stuff like the back of my hand now. So I would love to come and provide a workshop, personal code of honor workshop for your clients and even your staff. If a group of you would like to get together and get more familiar with this body of knowledge. Now, if you happen to live, or if you happen to work, or your agency is in the Pacific Northwest of Washington State, or the Lower Mainland, Vancouver area of British Columbia, I would love to come and talk with you and plan a workshop for your clients, and especially for those who might be wrestling with addiction issues. So I have posted, you may have already seen it, I have posted kind of page 1 of my brochure, and it shows on there what the workshops are. I'd love to be able to send you the entire brochure, so message me with your email address, and I will get you that brochure. And if you'd like to talk more about a free workshop for your clients or staff, give me your phone number, and I'll give you a call, and we'll get something going. Now, my phone number and email address is on that front cover of the brochure, but I will let you know right now that the number is 604-229-0328. 604-229-0328. And again, you'll see the email address there on the brochure. So, I look forward to speaking with you, and I hope your days are warming up as are mine here. And so have a great summer, and I hope to talk to you soon. Take care.